Trump demands Biden remove ad of him calling dead soldiers suckers and losers, and Trump denies calling dead soldiers losers and suckers after Biden visit to cemetery in France. Fox News edited out Trump saying he might keep Epstein files sealed. Trump meets with probation officer ahead of sentencing.
Gaza civilian killings during Israel's freeing of hostages could be war crimes, UN says. Hamas. Palestinian Authority welcome UN Security Council resolution for Gaza ceasefire. Al Jazeera rejects accusations hostage captor was a journalist on their platform. Apple supplier stocks drop as AI events seen lacking wow factor. Where Apple brings ChatGPT and more AI to devices, Wall Street unimpressed. Elon Musk threatens to ban Apple devices from his companies over Apple's ChatGPT integrations.
U.S. plans to turn Taiwan Strait into unmanned hellscape if China invades. Top Admiral checks to open cultural center in Taiwan, risking China's ire. Canadian judge to retire from Hong Kong's top court becomes third member to step down.
French far-right projected to win snap election without absolute majority. In Germany, Putin announces further cooperation between Russia and the AfD, and no signs of neo-Nazism, claims. Von der Leyen aims for a second term but still needs a deal.
Google takes down influence campaigns tied to China, Indonesia, and Russia. Researchers warn of potential abuse of Azure service tags. Snowflake breach exposes 165 customers' data in ongoing extortion campaign. Morgs malware disguised as CVs targets recruiters in phishing attack. Sticky Werewolf expands cyber attack targets in Russia and Belarus. ARM warns of actively exploited zero-day vulnerability in Mali GPU drivers.
Russia begins second stage of tactical nuclear weapon drills with Belarus. Russia uses submarines to patrol Black Sea after naval losses, Ukraine military says. Rheinmetall and Ukrainian government open tank repair plant. Some F-16s donated to Ukraine will be stored abroad as reserves, top officer says. U.S. confirms Ukraine used Patriot to down Russia's valuable A-50 radar plane in January. Nearly 20,000 Wagner mercenaries died taking Bakhmut, media investigation confirms.
Uvalde shooting survivors' families sue UPS, FedEx for shipping weapon used by gunmen in school massacre.
Windows 11 will finally let you access your phone's files via File Explorer. Apple will support RCS with iOS 18, improving messaging experience between iPhone and Android. Apple is fixing a years-old parental control bug that lets kids avoid web filters. Zimbabwe president offers to send hyenas to Russia. YouTube prankster voted in as Cyprus MEP. Jurors begin deliberations in Hunter Biden's criminal gun case. Apple is introducing Apple Intelligence, the personal intelligence system that puts powerful generative models at the core of iPhone, iPad, and Mac. Apple and Canon announce mirrorless camera lens designed for spatial video capture. Apple unveils macOS 15 Sequoia with iPhone mirroring, passwords app, more.
In Canada, federal parties agree to ask commissioner to investigate treason allegations in watchdog report. Federal government to give Quebec $750 million for surge in temporary immigrants. Biden to close Dili detention center, shift resources amid border crackdown.
Reform UK candidate apologises for comments suggesting UK should have stayed neutral during Second World War, and Reform UK defends candidate over Hitler neutrality comments. Starmer deputy revives Blair-era approach to cut UK homelessness. Lib Dems pledged to rejoin EU single market in manifesto to save the NHS.
In the U.S., Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez says progressive movement is undermined by anti-Semitism. Drop in violent crime is no accident, Biden says, as violent crime is down and the U.S. murder rate is plunging, FBI statistics show. UN Food Agency pauses its aid work at U.S. pier in Gaza over security concerns. Japan ministry believes Toyota's misconduct may violate UN standards, Yomiuri reports. Class action lawsuit alleges certain Kia and Hyundai vehicles have a defect. Chinese builder Dashin receives liquidation order from HK Court. Sister warns of new counteraction. Chinese military harassed Dutch warship enforcing UN sanctions on North Korea, Netherlands says.
Boeing Starliner stuck on space station as more leaks discovered. NASA accidentally broadcasts simulation of distressed astronauts on space station. DARPA's secretive new neutrino detector program could be a game changer for global underwater military surveillance.
Tesla pops 7% in pre-market after Elon Musk says he is set for victory in $56 billion pay vote. Raspberry Pi is now a public company. Microsoft sued by supercomputer creator over AI architecture.
Chinese EVs with extra duties of up to 38.1%, and Czech carmakers warn tariffs on Chinese EVs could hit supply chains. Tesla to build Shanghai factory to make megapack batteries. Cryptojacking campaign targets, misconfigured Kubernetes clusters. Warm cookie backdoor targets job seekers in latest phishing scheme. Apple refused to pay bounty to Kaspersky for uncovering vulnerability part of Operation Triangulation.
Dollar and euro trade halted on Russia's biggest exchange due to new U.S. sanctions. New U.S. wave of Ukraine sanctions includes targets in Hong Kong and mainland China. U.S. expands Russia sanctions to target LNG projects, chips, and David Cameron calls on Europe to turn off Russian gas to save Ukraine.
Blinken says U.S. will try to bridge Israel and Hamas gaps on Gaza truce. Time for haggling to stop, and Blinken says some of Hamas' proposed changes to a ceasefire plan in Gaza are workable and some not. Hamas seeks complete halt to war in Gaza proposal response. UN says record 120 million people forcibly displaced globally.
A 98-year-old man's liver was donated. He is believed to be the oldest American organ donor ever. NBA icon and Hall of Famer Jerry West passes away at 86. Françoise Hardy, French pop singer and fashion muse, dies aged 80. President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, is convicted of all 3 felonies in federal gun trial. Paul Ryan faces GOP blowback after saying he won't vote for Trump. U.S. Congress holds Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt over Joe Biden interview.
Under pressure from Russian censors, Mozilla removes anti-censorship extensions. Microsoft pauses rollout of Windows 11 24H2 preview build after announcing recall changes. Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation have all now abandoned Twitter X integration.
Social media platform X begins hiding users' likes to protect privacy. YouTube looks to be testing server-side ad injection to counter ad blockers. Japan forces Apple and Google to allow third-party app stores and payments.
80% of Americans are concerned about the spread of disinformation, with Black people among the most targeted.
Honda launches long-awaited electric van starting at $15,550. 9 months ago, it had been announced that Honda unveils $10,000 electric N-Van E with 130 miles range that can power your home.
Zuma's MK party seeks to block South African parliament, citing vote rigging. In Canada, Mo pledges to investigate chemtrails at meeting in Spears, Saskatchewan. Opposition calls foul. South Australia government proposes world eating laws to ban political parties from receiving electoral donations.
Their lives, according to study. For the first time, Spain becomes the Euro country with the highest risk of poverty.
Star Witness describes bribery scheme over brandy and cigars, and it has been reported that Bob Menendez files to run as independent for Senate while on trial.
In the U.S., Alito attacks ProPublica over Pulitzer winning ethics coverage. They don't like our decisions. Ocasio-Cortez, Raskin to introduce legislation to rein in a fundamentally unaccountable and rogue Supreme Court. And U.S. Supreme Court in crisis of legitimacy, says AOC at U.S. Congress Oversight Roundtable. Senator Lindsey Graham says he will block Democrats' effort to unanimously pass Supreme Court ethics bill.
Moldovan president signs changes to treason law denounced by opposition. Amnesty International. Massive attack cancelled Georgia show in protest to the government's attack on basic human rights. France's Macron suspends New Caledonia reform that sparked deadly riots after snap polls called.
Armenia to quit Russia's military alliance amid split with Putin. India urges Russia to return its citizens recruited by Russia's army after 2 killed. In Germany, union politicians demand conscription for women too,
says. Dutch MPs approve purchase of 4 Black Sword Barracuda submarines from Naval Group.
In the U.S., prices stayed flat in May as inflation hit plateau and Federal Reserve leaves rates unchanged, sees only one 2024 cut despite inflation progress. Philippine rate cut likely to come after Fed finance chief says. Australia's unemployment rate dips to 4% as economy adds 40,000 new jobs.
China's Ant Group invests $2.9 billion in technology research last year. Apple becomes the first $1 trillion global brand. Nvidia's value triples, report says. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang has a no one-on-one meetings rule for his 55 direct reports.
North Korean cyberattacks on Brazilian fintech firms exposed. FTC data shows major increases in cash payments to government impersonation scammers. ZKTeco biometric system found vulnerable to 24 critical security flaws.
Finland will host a NATO land command and troops. Putin claims he did not plan to storm Kyiv in 2022. G7 says Russia should pay almost $500 billion to Ukraine in compensation of damage. U.S. designates Scandinavian neo-Nazi group and 3 leaders as terrorists. U.S. sanctions Israeli group, Sav-9, that attack aid convoys threaten peace. U.S. Justice Department announces anticipated distribution of at least $940 million to victims of state-sponsored terrorism in 2025.
Undercover Israeli spies posed as Palestinians and lived in Gaza near hostages to plot daring rescue mission. Hamas official says no one has any idea how many Israeli hostages are still alive. Hamas armed wing says Israeli airstrike killed 2 hostages in Rafah.
And Russian assets in July, and Putin denounced freezing of Russian assets as theft, which will not go unpunished. Heads in Kaliningrad Oblast, Polish FM claims. Russia withdrawing from protocol to Transboundary Air Pollution Convention.
Apple set to be first big tech group to face charges under EU digital law. Meta pauses AI models launch in Europe due to Irish request. Indonesia minister threatens to shut down X over adult content.
EU member states greenlight Ukraine. Moldova negotiating frameworks. Bridges, not walls. Vatican says maintaining diplomatic ties with Russia is important.
CEOs tell CNBC Trump was meandering, could not keep a straight thought, and Joe Biden will make more gaffes than Donald Trump in live TV debate, poll suggests. Trump says pilots, like beautiful Tom Cruise but taller, told him UFOs exist. Joe Biden wishes Trump a happy birthday from one old guy to another.
8. Plunged within 400 feet of ocean near Hawaii. China overtakes U.S. in global car sales for the first time.
Right from wrong, brother. In France, crisis at LR, as the exclusion of Eric Ciotti from the presidency, suspended by the courts.
Sonos privacy policy change suggests it might sell your data. Google faces GDPR complaint over privacy sandbox, as Austrian group accuses Google of tracking users on Chrome browser. Mozilla has restored access to extensions to bypass blocking in Russia.
World Bank boosts forecast. Strength of U.S. economy will support global growth of 2.6% in 2024. U.S. business travel industry responsible for almost 2% of U.S. GDP and 3.5% of employment in latest full-year figures. Donald Trump's income tax cut would cost average family $5,000, claims an economist. Recently, in CEO meeting, Trump promised more tax cuts.
Former head of NSA joins OpenAI board. OpenAI taps veteran of Nextdoor and Square as new CFO, dismisses IPO speculation. Reuters reported that Pentagon ran secret anti-vaccine campaign to undermine China during pandemic.
Without saying Siri, Moto tag item tracker appears on certification website. Polish government plans 7.6% minimum wage rise in 2025.
4%, Ontario hits $1 billion as per Equifax. Unhappy workers may reduce global GDP by as much as 9%, Gallup estimates.
In the UK, fury as Nigel Farage brands Putin clever and says Ukraine should negotiate. Nigel Farage says he is leader of the opposition after Reform UK poll boost. Nobody knows how to deal with Nigel Farage, says former Labour strategist.
Alito says he's sure Congress wanted to ban a rapid-fire gun device, but sided with the ruling to overturn the ban anyway, as U.S. Supreme Court rejects Trump-era ban on bump stocks, gun accessory from Vegas massacre. Johnson says House will go to court for Biden recordings, after Department of Justice says it won't prosecute Attorney General Garland. Trump attributes presence of Russian ships at the port of Havana to Biden's weakness.
Reactor TB2S arrived in Romania. 1 year ago, Romania awards $321 million contract for Turkish TB2 combat drones.
U.S. submarine pulls into Guantanamo Bay a day after Russian warships arrive in Cuba. Vietnam seeks to gradually expand security, defense ties with U.S. as China ties deep